Okay, so like imagine this. It's the end of a long day, right?
Yeah.
You are beat, just totally wiped. And you wander into the kitchen and bam, there they are. A plate of fresh baked cookies
Right.
staring you down. And, over on the counter is like a bowl of, well, honestly, sort of sad looking bunch of carrots. And we both know which one we should go for, but come on. Sometimes those cookies, they just call your name a little louder.
It's true.
And that's something, we've all been there. And it's something that the Mindset Shift podcast, the one you shared with me, they totally get it. This whole thing, this deep dive, it's about building like a seriously incredible self-control. But we're ditching the whole superhuman willpower thing. It's more about like, how do we work with our brains, not against them,
Yeah.
to get to where we want to be, to hit those goals.
Yeah, and what I find really interesting is that it seems to start with, just a good dose of self-awareness, right? So like you wouldn't, just start building a house without having a clue about the foundation.
Oh, absolutely not.
You'd be in big trouble.
Yeah, you'd have some pretty wobbly walls.
Exactly. So how do we lay that groundwork when we're talking about self-control?
Yeah, how do we do that?
Well, it's all about, knowing your triggers. What are those situations, those feelings, maybe even, certain people that just make it harder to make the good choice, the strong choice.
Yeah, it's that personalized approach,
Yeah.
right? So while we're kind of unpacking this whole thing, I want you listening to think about, what are your triggers? Like,
Yeah.
what is it that really throws you off? The podcast had a perfect example. They were saying that for some folks, stress basically equals like a direct line to snacking.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
The pantry just starts calling.
Exactly. And what they were saying that was so important was that wishing for more willpower, like, that's not the answer.
It's not going to magically happen.
It's about how can we manage the stress better in the first place? And they had some ideas like going for a walk or trying, like a quick mindfulness exercise. But it got me thinking, like, what works for one person might not work for everyone.
Totally. It's about like what works for you, not, some self-help guru on Instagram, right?
Precisely.
With their perfectly filtered lives. Yeah.
It's about becoming your own, like, self-control scientist.
I love that.
You observe the patterns, you test out different things, and you figure out what works to get that control back, especially in those moments where you're vulnerable.
It's like you're building your own little personalized toolkit, right?
Yeah.
For those moments, you're like, uh-oh, here we go again.
Exactly.
So we've got the foundation down. We're recognizing those triggers. What's next?
Yeah.
What's in a brick in building this self-control, like, masterpiece?
Well, think about it like this. Imagine you're setting off on a trip, but you don't have any destination in mind. You might see some cool stuff along the way.
Oh, absolutely.
But you're probably not going to end up where you want to go.
Right, right.
And this podcast, The Mindset Shift, they make a really strong case for, like, setting those clear goals.
Okay, that makes sense, because I've definitely been guilty of setting these super vague goals, like, I want to get fit,
Yeah.
which, great, awesome. But it's like, how do I even...
Right, it's too broad.
Yeah, it's like trying to navigate with a broken compass. You just end up going in circles.
Exactly. And the Mindset Shift, they use this example of taking that vague goal, like, get fit, and making it concrete, like, I'm going to work out 3 times a week for 30 minutes.
Okay.
You can measure that.
It's trackable.
You can track it, and it feels way less overwhelming, right?
Right, because you're not like...
It's not this big, scary thing.
Yeah, it's not this big, overwhelming thing. It's like you've broken down this massive project into these, like, bite-sized pieces.
Exactly. And this is important. Don't forget to celebrate those little wins along the way.
Oh, yeah.
Each step, even the tiny ones, they matter. They deserve to be celebrated.
Like, acknowledge it.
Acknowledge it. Because that's fuel,
Yeah.
Keeps you going on this self-control journey.
It's like, give yourself a high five,
Exactly. And speaking of, conquering things, let's talk about training our brains to actually make those good choices more consistently,
Okay.
Have you heard of that marshmallow test?
Oh, yeah. The one where they put the marshmallow in front of the kid, and if they don't eat it, they get like 2 marshmallows later. It's kind of cruel, but also fascinating to watch.
It is. But it's not just about kids and candy. It's really about this idea of delayed gratification.
Oh, okay.
And it's kind of wild, but it can actually predict how successful people will be later in life.
Wait, so like, if a kid can resist a marshmallow, they're more likely to, like, be successful as a grown-up.
Yeah.
That's both hilarious and slightly terrifying.
It's pretty wild. But the good news is this whole thing, like choosing the bigger reward later, even when there's something tempting right in front of you, that's something you can actually get better at.
Okay, so how do we train our brains to be more like those marshmallow-resisting champs?
Well, the mindset shift actually had a really good tactic for that. So, like, imagine you're, I don't know, about to buy something impulsively. You know, that thing that's like so tempting now. But next month, when the credit card bill comes, maybe not so much.
Oh, tell me you're not talking about my online shopping habit.
Maybe. But hey, we've all been there, so they suggest this. Just wait 10 minutes.
Really?
That's it. That's it. Just 10 minutes. And you'd be surprised, but often, just that little bit of space between like the urge and doing it, the urge actually fades.
So you're basically like letting your brain catch up and make a smarter choice.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm adding that to my self-control toolkit for sure.
Yeah.
So we've got like, we're tackling those triggers, we're setting bigger goals, we're working on that whole delayed gratification thing. What else can we do to like seriously level up our self-control?
This is where those routines come in. And before you tune out, thinking like rigid schedules, that's not what we're talking about.
Good.
We're talking about this thing called, have you heard of it, decision fatigue.
Oh, decision fatigue, yes.
Tell me about it.
It's like, by the end of the day, I have made so many decisions, like what to wear, what to eat, which email to answer first, and my brain is just like fried, completely done.
And guess what? That's when your self-control is weakest.
Oh, no.
And this podcast, they were saying that if you have good routines, you actually reduce the number of decisions you have to make every day.
That makes sense.
And then you save that mental energy for the stuff that really matters.
Right.
They had this great example about meal prepping.
Well, meal prepping, yeah.
It's not just, for those fitness people.
Right. It's not just like Instagram perfect lunches.
It's about taking away that decision when you are tired.
Yeah, because I don't know about you, but like 7 o'clock rolls around and I'm staring into the fridge and it's like, what am I going to make?
The worst, right.
And then I order takeout because it's just too much.
Exactly. But if you've got it all planned out,
Already ready to go.
you're setting yourself up for success
Cool.
rather than just hoping your willpower is going to beat.
Yeah, it's like having that backup plan for when you're running on fumes,
Exactly.
Okay, so meal prepping, awesome. What other kinds of routines, though, can we use to kind of boost that self-control? It's like, putting it on autopilot, those good choices, so you're not, like, relying on willpower alone.
Yeah, exactly. And that actually leads us to, like, the last piece of this whole self-control puzzle.
Yeah.
And it might be the most important one.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
It's all about self-compassion.
Self-compassion.
Yeah.
Interesting, because, we've all heard that message, right? Like, no pain, no gain, push harder, be tougher on yourself.
Right, like that's the path to success.
Yeah.
But the mindset shift, they actually had a really different take on that.
Okay.
They were saying that that whole always-on thing, it's just not sustainable.
It's exhausting.
It is. And they were saying if you beat yourself up over every little slip-up, you're actually setting yourself up for, burnout rather than success.
It's that saying, right? You have to, like, rest the muscle to build the muscle.
Exactly. And in this case, that muscle is our self-control.
Okay.
We got to be kind to ourselves, especially when we stumble a little bit.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, setbacks are going to happen, right?
Oh, for sure.
We're human.
Yeah.
But it's how we react to those setbacks that really matters.
Okay, so like instead of that one missed workout or, that extra cookie,
Yeah.
sending us into a total shame spiral.
Right. Exactly.
We need to, like, be kind to ourselves.
Be kind to ourselves like we would be to a friend going
Yeah.
through the same thing.
Totally.
It's about what can we learn, What can we do differently next time?
Yeah, instead of just, like,
Beating ourselves up.
the self-criticism.
Exactly. It's way more helpful to approach it from, like, a curious place.
So I like that.
A compassionate place.
Yeah, it's like self-coaching versus self-criticism.
Yes. And this actually connects to something we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
We've been focusing on all these, like, external strategies for self-control, like setting goals, knowing your triggers, all those routines.
Those, like, tangible things we can actually do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But we also have to remember the internal game,
Oh, interesting.
our mindset, like what we believe, how we talk to ourselves. Those things make a huge difference, too.
So you're saying, like, even if we have all the right strategies in place, if we don't actually believe we can do it, then it's not going to work.
Exactly. And that brings me to, like, my final thought for everyone listening today.
Okay, lay it on me.
As you're working on your own self-control, think about this. How much of it is about the strategy? And how much is about what you believe about yourself?
Whoa, that is a really good question.
Right?
It's like, we've given you the map, we've given you the tools.
Yeah.
but you got to choose to use them
Exactly.
and, like, believe that you can.
I love that.
This has been so interesting. What do you think out there, listener?
Mm-hmm.
We talked about, like, knowing those triggers, getting clear on your goals, that 10-minute rule.
Mm-hmm.
So smart. And then the routines. And, maybe most important of all, being kind to ourselves along the way.
Because at the end of the day, it's not about being perfect. It's about knowing yourself, figuring out what works for you so you can make those choices that, match your goals and what you value.
So well said. So, listener, as you're going about your day-to-day, what really stuck with you was that 10-minute rule. Amazing, right? Maybe you're ready to try a new morning routine or meal prep, or maybe it's that last bit about believing in yourself.
Whatever it is, we want to hear about it.
Yeah.
Head over to social media. Let us know what's resonating, what you're trying out. Share those aha moments.
Yes, we love hearing from you. Until next time, keep on diving deep, everyone.